Welcome to Astro Venture, the DSLR astrophotography channel. Welcome back, Astro Venturers. If you're new to this channel, let me introduce myself and the channel. My name is George, and this channel is astrophotography using DSLR or mirrorless cameras and the lenses that we already own, combined with a simple star tracker. But tonight, I wanted to do a quick little introductory on photographing the moon. Now, I know many of us have went out there, we saw the moon is looking absolutely gorgeous and big in the night sky, and you go to photograph it and you get something like this. Yeah, overblown. The reason why this happens is because on your camera, it overall sees the dark night sky, and it tries to compensate for that and brighten up the image, and as a result, you end up with the moon blown out or completely washed out in white. To capture the moon, you actually have to use settings that are closer to daytime, because if you think about it, the moon is actually a giant reflector reflecting the sunlight back at us. So you have to go into, and I apologize, mosquitoes are eating me alive out here tonight. You have to go into the manual settings for your camera so that you can tell it what to do, because it's going to try and adjust for the black when the light of the moon is such a small portion. So on the camera here, I'm going to swing this around and get the moon all centered up. Now, as I'm doing this, I'm using live view. Now, live view is actually really useful because as you go to take a picture, not so much with the moon, because like I said, we're going to be using settings that are much closer to daytime shooting, and your shutter speed is going to be plenty quick enough to freeze the action you're trying to capture. But if we were taking a long exposure on a DSLR camera, this doesn't apply to mirrorless, the moment you press the shutter button, even if you use the timed release, what ends up happening is the mirror comes up and we get what we call mirror slap, and it causes a vibration in the camera. And when you're trying to take pictures of very finite details, that little vibration can hurt. So the live view avoids that because it puts the mirror up and then you're seeing directly off the sensor. Basically the same way that what mirrorless is already doing. So again here, let's get this set up. The moon's moved on me. I'm going to frame up the moon as I want it, and I'm going to dial in my settings. Now, just so you know, on this particular camera, this is a Nikon D500. I'm shooting with a Tamron 150 to 600 lens. My settings, I'm shooting at 600 millimeters so that I can get as much magnification into the sensor as I can. I have set my ISO at 200. And then just to take kind of a quick picture, I have my exposure time at 1/320th of a second, and I've tightened up my aperture to an aperture of f8. Now, the reason being is camera lenses at wide open, and the reason we would try to shoot with that aperture wide open, say down at, maybe if you had a really fast lens down at 1.4, 1.8. The reason we want to shoot at those apertures is because it lets a lot of light in. However, at those wide open apertures, we tend to get a bit of a softer image, and if you close that aperture up, you tend to get a bit sharper. Now, you can go overboard. On this particular lens, I've set it to f8 because that's a nice sweet spot at 600 millimeters that I get a good, crisp, sharp image. Now, I have it set to live view, and then I am going to set this camera to timer so that I'm not touching it. Now again, ideally I'm shooting at 1/20th. I'm shooting plenty quick, but it's good practice. So I'm framed up 1/320th of a second, ISO 200, aperture of f8, live view is on, and I have the camera set to a timer. So I'm going to gently press this, release, and it's taken the picture. And now this is what I have. Now you'll notice with that image, the moon is not blown out, and that's because I'm using something closer to a daytime exposure. That is the key to capturing a beautiful moon shot. Now, a lot of people will get really excited when there's a big super moon out and everybody runs out to photograph that. One of the things I want to encourage you is photograph the moon when it's not full. The reason being is because that partial moon gives you shadows. It shows details of the craters on the surface of the moon. When you get a full moon, you have direct full blast of light and it washes out the shadows of the craters, what gives the moon its detail. So, again, I encourage you, go out, photograph the moon, give it a try, you'll see what I mean, and it's a great first step in learning light for astrophotography. Again, my name is George. I encourage you, subscribe, ring the bell, and join us on this astro venture. Clear skies.